the November 15th edition of the PFF Forecast. We've got our regular 3 questions that we're going to try and answer this week. We have a question from the dark web, a visit from the Historical Society, and, of course, all the Week 11 games. Let's rock. Got a little flavor there today.
Have to.
Dance moves have improved.
Yeah, you know. Have to. Up my game relative to everybody else here.
Eric, do you know what time it is?
To me, the game comes down to this: running the football.
Oh.
To me,
We decided to do no analytical edging during the season, but man.
Can I hear that again? Can we just get...
To me, the game comes down to this: running the football.
When I hear that, I'm looking into the face of God. I'm seeing...
Does the light reflect weirdly because Boog's fingers are off?
I mean, I can't wait for this game. I'm very excited for this game. It's a shame that it's not in Mexico City. It's a shame that it's not on Sunday Night Football. But maybe it's a blessing in disguise that we get Tess, Witt, and Boog on the call for the best game of the NFL season.
Apparently there was a Pro Football Talk story about how Witten sort of admitted to having flubbed some on the air. I think over the course of the last month or so, Witten has endeared himself quite a bit. As you said, he was running circles around Boog mentally in that game, slowly, mind you.
Power walk.
He pulls another rabbit out of his head.
But it's actually funny because I don't understand. I really want to know the ratio between the two as far as hatred on Twitter, because it seems to me like Witten gets more hate, and I understand it. But I actually just feel bad for Witten because it's really hard. I can't expect someone to turn down money in that situation. He's being handed that job, and he's doing his best. It's just unfortunate that his best isn't very good, and so he's getting killed. But he is at least trying. Mm-hmm. So when someone makes a ridiculous claim like Saquon Barkley should be drafted number 2, we hear him struggle with, he knows it's wrong. He's trying to come up with stuff. He actually gets a really good point, which was, yeah, but how many of those running backs have won anything? Booger is just staunchly flying in the face of reason.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Booger is it's fundamentally like just he came back, must have come back with that 2-point conversion, that game with the Giants, Falcons, and obviously the running back thing. He's probably picked up on steam that there are people who are against the running back, who are now being made fun of on Twitter apparently for a number of reasons. And he's like, okay, listen, I'm going to get in this camp. And at every time, no matter, like, it's like, Boog, what do you think of the kicking game here with the Rams? Like, Todd Gurley is the MVP of the NFL this year. And, like, so he just seems like really staunchly in that camp because of,
To me, the game comes down to this: running the football.
It's so beautiful that you could have a game between two of the best offenses that we've ever seen. Two of the most exciting offenses that we've ever seen. I think I personally could not pick a better matchup. The Saints are great. The Falcons are great offensively, but this is easily the most exciting matchup we could have.
Yep,
and
for sure.
For you to be so oblivious to actually, like, to what you're watching on the field that you could utter that sentence.
Kareem Hunt
Rule number 5, you're an idiot.
Kareem Hunt won the rushing title a season ago. Alex Smith was their quarterback. They were never truly a Super Bowl contender. You add Patrick Mahomes to really the team is basically the same. Maybe the defense is even worse, and they're a Super Bowl contender. Jared Goff, the Rams were a nice, plucky team a season ago. With Goff becoming a much better player this season, they are now a Super Bowl contender. It is clear what is driving this game, and it's great. It's going to be an awesome game to watch. And if I wasn't such a neck whiplash guy with I wanted to watch a train wreck all the time, I would put it on mute. But I have to listen. I can't not listen.
I just love it. I can't. I get excited about it. Okay, our 3 questions this week. We're going to run through these nice and quick, as I say every single week. The first one is, and this is a great one that you had because for people that don't know, and there are people that don't know, of the 10 that are listening right now, you're a football historian. You watch more old football games than anyone else. You can have a conversation with a 90-year-old person that played in the 20s and someone that's talking today because you just have that much knowledge. That was a compliment, by the way.
Thank you.
So your question is there any chance in hell that we're going to see a 7-3 game a la the 1990 Niners-Giants game? If you watch Monday Night Football, you saw them talk about that probably 15 times. In other words, does good offense always beat good defense? How can we look at this?
Yeah, that was a game, Niners-Giants, which was the preview of the NFC Championship game that year. Both teams were 10-1. One of like 4 games it's going to be like Monday night. And that game, obviously, Joe Montana, one of the best, if not the best players of all time, facing a Giants defense that is like pretty legendary. Belichick, Lawrence Taylor, all those guys. And the game in San Francisco ended 7-3. And I remember watching that game actually a while back thinking, like, is that what happens? Does great defense beat great offense? And I do think back then, right, it certainly did. And then in that NFC Championship game, the Giants hit Montana so hard that he sat out 2 years afterwards. So, whereas I think now the question becomes is like if you match up 2 teams where one team is, and this isn't Monday night, but one team where one is really good offensively, one is really good defensively, do you end up with these decisions that favor the defense? And my hypothesis is no.
So today it doesn't seem like it is, right?
Yeah.
2018, it doesn't seem like it is. But seasons can be sort of fluky.
For sure.
So is the most logical way to look at this then to say, okay, let's look at how many points are scored, and let's see if there's a situation where we can sort of tease out, okay, here's a really good offense versus a really good defense. Are we scoring more points than we'd expect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I looked at the PFF era. Actually, I took away, I believe, 2007, and I looked at took 2006 as our first year, everything sort of initializing. And I looked at teams that were in our PFF Massey rankings were 90th percentile in offense and defense. And what was really interesting is that the team, if the game was played at the offensive team's home field, the game went over about 53% of the time. So if you bet the over blindly for these 20 or so games, you would have made money. If the home team is the better defense, actually the game goes under fairly often. And the interesting thing, though, is that the total is still about 40 during the course of that PFF era. So, I don't know, you're not going to see 7-3 games, but you are going to see games possibly more like, you saw with Baltimore versus the Saints, where it's more like 23-24 type games.
I think that makes sense. My belief has always been that defenses are at the mercy of the offense. Mm-hmm. So if your offense is in a slightly, harder situation, then it's going to help the defense a little bit. And when you're on the road, you don't have that benefit of being able to go to a silent count, get away from the silent count, right? You're at home. Yep. You can play with the pass rush. And for any good defense, I would assume you have a decent pass rush. And if you can mitigate that to a large extent, I would expect there to be more points scored. Plus, there's some sort of culture that's inherent in the home field, right? And I would also say that maybe there's some sort, of, well, it's outdoors, certain things that I think just imbue what the team is.
Yep, for sure.
So I think that's really cool.
Interestingly, the over-under for these games, the home games with the home team being the great offense, is somewhere around 46, 47, which is high historically. So even the market is pricing in the fact that they do think that these games will be high scoring, and then they still go over more than they don't. So that's pretty interesting.
By the way, it's Sweater Thursday for people that don't know.
Well,
people that are
emphasis on sweat.
If people are listening and not watching, both of us are wearing sweaters, which is a reason to go watch. Though this sweater sort of makes
I will
me look
say
large.
You did not. We've been friends for a while now. You would have never struck me as a sweater person, but we mostly interacted over Skype until about like a few months ago.
I'm a layer person. I don't like having to behold to one thick coat because it's not very versatile. I'm not going to wear a thick coat in here if it happens to get cold.
That's true.
So I'm sort of like a Sean McVay offense. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
I come out with the same package and I'm ready for whatever you throw at me.
In layers. Layers of routes,
it's
layers
beautiful.
of clothes. Yep.
Next question. Who will be the best team in the NFL after this week? Go. You have 60 seconds. I'm just going to count in my head.
New Orleans. Oh, okay. I was going to give you the extra 55.
Oh, I wanted some reason.
So I think New Orleans blows out the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs weirdly give us they give us some of their flaws because they're playing good teams. And I don't think New England is close yet. I don't think Pittsburgh is close yet. So I think in the minds of many, and as well as like all of our rating systems, New Orleans will be that team.
Okay. I think that's very cogent argument. I can't poke too many holes in that. I think it will be the Rams. I think the Rams are going to expose the Chiefs' defense
very much
in a way that we have not seen because the Chiefs have not played a real team in 3 weeks. They played the Patriots, who I think we're learning might not have been quite as back as we anticipated. And they don't have Cooper Kupp, and I think they still will expose that defense. I think they win that game. I do think it's close, but I think they win that game, and there's no question about it that they win it. And I think that makes them the best team in the NFL.
I think the Chiefs covering against the New England is a bit more fluky than people are giving it credit for. You had a long touchdown to Hunt. You had a long kickoff return. You had a fumble by Brady, who was 10 seconds in the pocket. The New England basically handled them in that game. And unfortunately, if you're a Chiefs fan, they didn't come out with a win. But I think also, unfortunately, if you're a Chiefs fan, it also showed a lot of their warts.
And I don't think that's a bad thing for the Chiefs. Being the best team after week 11 does not get you a Lombardi.
No.
So we'll see. We'll probably both be wrong. It'll be the Chiefs. Next question. Titans, Bengals, Ravens, Colts, Dolphins. Mediocrity personified. Which of these teams has the best chance of making the playoffs? So just pick one that you think has the best chance, and I'll pick mine, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Pertinent because the Titans play the Colts and the Bengals play the Ravens, and the Dolphins will manage not to lose this weekend because they're on a bye. So I'm just going to – so this is going to go against all the numbers. I think it's – and actually our pick this weekend, but I think it's going to be the Colts. I think the Colts have a lot of the goods. I think the Titans are riding high. I think Cincinnati and Baltimore are going to kind of beat each other up too much, and Miami stinks.
Wow. So you're usually a guy that goes with the numbers. So I was just waiting for you to say Tennessee, and I was going to take the Colts because I have a fatal flaw, which is I think the Colts are way better than they are, and I've thought this for 5 years because I think Andrew Luck is really good. So now I can't take the Colts. I really like that pick, though, because basically what you're saying is let's ride with the best quarterback and the best offense, and that's what that is. And I feel like the Titans, their offense has been super fluky.
Yeah.
I'm not a believer in the Titans' offense, and I don't care about their defense.
Yeah, and the thing is if Indianapolis wins this week at home,
right,
they're tied, and then Indy has another home game. Indy's schedule gets a little bit easier. On another side of the coin, though, from a personal perspective, I think we both like the Colts and what Reich has to offer. Their win total this season is 6.5. I kind of want them to finish at 7 for them to go over that slightly. And then next season, their win total to be 7.5, 8, and have that be a soft number and have us. Because I do think if they go to make the playoffs and have a nice finish, their win total is going to be like 9.5. It's going to be like, that's going to be one that we're not going to be able to pick.
Welcome to Degenerates Anonymous. For more help, you can hit up Eric.
I hope the Colts go 2-3-1 on the rest of the year.
Christ help us. Okay, gut feeling between Cincinnati and Baltimore. If you had to choose one,
Bengals.
Yeah, it's the Bengals. They have the better chance. So numbers wise, we have the Titans right now 55% to make the playoffs, and
some of that is winning the AFC. They have a chance to win the AFC South, but
yeah, and that goes into it, right? And Indy well behind them at like 15%. So we'll see. Okay, next up, we have a special visit from the Historical Society. You're representing them since you're a member. I'm not. People might not know that I was born in 1990, which was the advent of offenses finally beating good defenses. So the 2008 NFL Draft, I was I can't remember where exactly I was for this, but I remember this draft rather distinctly for one reason. We'll talk about why it is in a second.
John David Booty?
No, not that reason. So how do you want to do this? What do you think the best way to take this visit?
So this was something, and obviously we've obviously been a part of the whole running backs doesn't matter kind of nonsense. And the thing is we were, I think, walking back from the gym, and I just pulled this up because I wanted to know where one person was drafted. And what ended up happening is this 2008 draft from the perspective of the running back is pretty hilarious, right?
It's beautiful.
And so you look.
Walking back from the gym.
Yeah.
Swole guy.
You look at this and you look at
My column.
You look
I was walking back from the gym.
I lost 12 pounds. And so you look at like the first round of this draft, and it's pretty, and like there are guys that are still kind of like football players, right? You have Darren McFadden was picked 4th, Jonathan Stewart was picked 13th, and then you have a trio of awesomeness: Felix Jones at 22nd, Rashard Mendenhall 23rd, Chris Johnson 24th. Those were the first round running backs taken that year. 5 stands out. The fact that 3 consecutive, there was a string on running. We got to get our backs. Get your backs now.
Oh my God.
And at the same time, like if you look at that, the hit rate is what for these players? First round.
I mean, not high. What would you go? Would you consider Jonathan Stewart?
Did Felix Jones have so all these guys? If Felix Jones had a 1,000-yard year, which I believe he did,
let's be really clear. The hit rate is 0 because all of them delivered less value than you should have had for a first rounder. But Chris Johnson,
right? But it's mixed, right? Because McFadden had a really good year in 2010, basically did nothing the rest of his career. Jonathan Stewart had a really good year in 2009 and has basically been around. I guess he still plays. Felix Jones, Rashard Mendenhall. So it's like interesting. You get to the second round, Matt Forte, Ray Rice, and the hit rate. The hit rate is 2 for 2 there, right? They're both pretty good backs.
You even caught yourself and you just kept going with it. That was brutal. Matt Forte was Matt Forte was a generational talent. The 2 second-round running backs and the 3rd-round running backs combined are far better, right? So there's 5 each. You'd certainly take the 2nd and 3rd round guys over the 1st round guys because in the 3rd round you have Kevin Smith, Jamal Charles, and Steve Slayton.
All 3 of those guys had a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, so
Jamal Charles was great.
This is just a hilarious draft. The reason I remember this draft is McFadden and Felix Jones both going in the 1st round, and I would be lying if I at that point understood the worthlessness of the running back.
Same here.
But when I saw that, something made me question how 2 guys from the same backfield were viewed as being, franchise-altering players. That didn't make a ton of sense to me, and I was like, maybe it has more to do with, the system that they're in. Both those guys, obviously good athletes. Darren McFadden, though, poor guy.
He rushed for 1,000 yards on 4 point a lot per carry between DeMarco Murray and Ezekiel Elliott year, showing sort of how Dallas is really just a place for running backs to go and ooze out their last bit of value.
Ooze it out. By the way, the top 10 for that draft: Jake Long, Chris Long, Matt Ryan, Darren McFadden, Glenn Dorsey, Vernon Golston, Cedric Ellis, Derek Harvey, Keith Rivers, Gerard Mayo, Leotis McKelvin. That was 11. Ryan Clady, 12, and then Jonathan Stewart.
So that you're talking about 1 out of 10.
Yeah. Joe Flacco was picked 18th. Right. The Lions could have had him. They took Goster Sherless instead, though. And then and that was the year they went 0-16. Yep.
But they got Kevin Smith though.
So it worked out. Okay. Let's go into the question from the dark web this week. Questions from the dark web is brought to us as usual by Samporanta, a sparkling water for men. Finally. This week, as they do every single week, Samporanta comes out with a new flavor to make sure that they can get you through this grueling week of NFL football. And this week, their special flavor is sacrificial strawberry without a hint of monetary regret. For when you decide to be a martyr for a cause that directly cannibalizes your worth, Samporanta is there for you. I'm told that the can is black and yellow.
Interesting.
With a tear.
Interesting. Is it flammable?
No, but it also can't pass a drug test.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I've heard LeGarrette Blount has many in his car as he strolls down to collect his Super Bowl ring this season.
That's sort of interesting that those 2 are friends, and good old LeGarrette couldn't have told him, hey, man, it's kind of risky.
Hilarious that LeGarrette Blount will go down as having a much more successful career than Bell.
Fire.
Question from the dark web.
Jeez.
Le'Veon Bell, if he were playing this season, would have an opportunity to be better than Todd Gurley. I like Todd Gurley. That's the problem. I used to hate.
That's the thing. Man.
I used to really not like Todd Gurley, not on a personal level, but just I wasn't a fan. Like, I didn't root for Todd Gurley. Now I actively root for Todd Gurley because I think it's funny how people conflate thinking that running backs don't matter and he shouldn't be the MVP with, oh, you hate Todd Gurley. People are so stupid. It's unbelievable. Okay. First question, only question from @OnlyWonderBoy. This question is this. Brown's Twitter discourse, flammable, has been focused on a potential, for some reason, Odell Beckham Jr. trade, and some people have claimed the quality of a team's wide receivers can shore up weaknesses at the offensive tackle position. Is there any validity to this claim? Would love to hear it on the pod. Well, that you shall, because we're going to discuss right now. First off, hilarious that that's the discourse they've been having on Brown's Twitter, but I guess it makes sense. Go ahead.
This is about as likely as them winning 7 games or next year. Didn't he just sign a contract extension? I don't get it. All right. His post-game interview, fire. I would not have watched it.
Oh, we should talk about this. So if you didn't watch the end of Monday Night Football, because why would you? They bring someone out to do an interview afterwards, and Odell comes out. He jogs out. He's there with Lou, sweet Lou. Sweet baby Lou.
We haven't really talked much about Lou lately.
And he's just continuing to speak the word of God. And Steve Young and Susie Colbert. Susie's fantastic. And what's the best way? So they just win a game, their second game of the season. He trots out. What is one word to describe the way that he acted on that interview?
Ray, as in Ray Lewis. He was like a combination of like Ray Lewis and Terrell Owens. The crying of the Terrell Owens and the complete obnoxiousness of Ray Lewis.
He was oblivious to the fact that his team was 2 and whatever, that they were awful. It was an I told you so speech full of emotion that would have made a 13-year-old junior high girl or boy, actually.
The only person who wouldn't flinch by it was Louis Riddick.
I thought even Lou looked uncomfortable. I will amend my statement. Regardless of the sex, a 13-year-old has a better emotional composure.
We're having a great afternoon.
Yeah, right? I mean, brutal.
Because I wasn't watching and you like messaged me, you're like, dude, watch this Odell interview. So I look at it and the guy is just...
I've been telling you this the whole time, man. I'm just out here balling.
People doubted the Giants.
You guys suck.
The PFF forecast doubted the Giants.
You guys just barely beat Nick Mullins.
Hey, granted, though, that was a green line pick and they did cover. So thank you, Odell.
All right, what's your answer to this question? Does trading for Odell help their offensive tackle positions?
Getting a better wide receiver would really help their offense. But I think that offensive performance is more insensitive to the play of your offensive tackles than people believe. And so if you have a wide receiver that can play as well as Odell Beckham, then I think that their offense will be better.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't helped the Giants' tackles.
Yeah.
So here's the way I think of it is I don't need Odell Beckham Jr. I just need 4 receivers that are versatile and decent, right? You've seen teams that, go look at the Rams.
Yeah.
You don't need Odell Beckham Jr. and it's not going to help your offensive tackles. The idea that your offensive tackles are helped by your receivers, I think, is just pointing at, well, you actually need a quarterback and a scheme that
you need to be successful on first and second down, so your third downs are the drive that epitomized the Giants was the drive right after they get the ball back. I think it was tied, and on first down, Manning drops to throw. Odell's 10 yards behind by Okello Witherspoon or whatever, and Manning underthrows it by 10 yards. Odell has to come back. Ball gets batted away. Second down and 10, run the ball because why wouldn't you?
Course.
And then on 3rd and 10, long yard situation, Manning is sacked because the tackles aren't very good. And so, like, to me, how do you get out of that situation? Well, you have a quarterback and a receiver that can capitalize when they get open, and it's probably more a product of the quarterback, and the Browns have that quarterback. So I think they should be obviously optimistic, but they're never getting Odell because he just signed that contract.
Yeah, and even if they had the opportunity to, I would say that would be this isn't a hot take. This is truly what I believe. Trading for Odell Beckham Jr. would be a suboptimal move for them trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
You are not Odell Beckham Jr. away from winning a Super Bowl. You are many different things away from winning a Super Bowl, and not one of them is a number one wide receiver. Yes, you may need some more depth at the wide receiver position, sure, but that's not what's keeping you from a Super Bowl. Stockpiling first-round picks, getting good players. I mean, that's the Browns fans should be so pumped because they have the most important ingredient, right?
Yeah, and they are, and this is the hot take. I don't know if we've said this on the podcast before, but they are one person away from the Super Bowl, and his name is Bill Belichick.
You really think Bill Belichick is going to the Browns next year?
I think that there is a non-zero chance that Bill Belichick goes to the Browns.
Great.
No?
What, I thought we were in the trust tree in the nest. Are we not?
Stopsky is over here just on fire.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
That was fantastic. Okay, we're gonna.
So George isn't even gonna explore the idea.
No, I'm not, because it's going to be Lincoln Riley unless Jerry Jones has a video of Lincoln Riley from college, which isn't.
He has so many of those videos, and then other people have videos. Garrett's got a video of him. Right?
I know people hate on Jerry Jones, and I'm sure there's reason that you can, but. Damn it, Jerry Jones has done it right. The man owns the Dallas Cowboys. He owns Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys going to that. I'm going to brag for a second here. I've been to Cowboy Stadium, but the way that they do things there, it's a different level, man. You can hate on him all you want, but the dude has done it right. So it would not surprise me to see the Cowboys somehow get Lincoln Riley. I don't know why. To convince Lincoln Riley to coach Dak Prescott instead of Baker Mayfield, you might actually have to drug him. Personally, is my opinion. But
he pulls another rabbit out of his head.
On fire.
It's so good. Should we go on to picks?
Let's do it. Picks are brought to us by mybookie.ag. Whether you are betting on a football game, actually, let's just throw out football. Last night, I was trying to watch TV, and the only thing on was some awful NBA game. I was trying to wait for the Laker game afterwards, and then like Duke versus Eastern Michigan. Well, those games can be really boring, but mybookie.ag has a way for you to enjoy every single night of sports entertainment. You can place a bet on Horizon League, on Maction, on individual players. You can place games in the middle of the game if you want. And they've got everything that you could possibly need to make that cash happen. So head to mybookie.ag, use promo code PFF to get a $1 match on your first deposit. It's pretty simple. It's PFF plus mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk real quick about the Thursday game in case this gets out before the Thursday game. Stops gets all on you, so hopefully it is. Stop.
Sorry.
Thursday, Packers, Seahawks. Seahawks currently favored by, is it 2.5 or 3 right now?
It's 2.5 some places, 3 probably most places.
Okay. You like the Seahawks here, don't you?
I do, actually. I think that the Packers traveling, obviously the travel, I think this is the furthest the team has traveled for a Thursday night game. Their game on Sunday was a 4 p.m. game. I know that that's not a ton of hours difference, but I think the spot here is really good for Seattle. I think also Seattle's just been more impressive than Green Bay over the last few weeks, even in some losses here. So I don't know, man. Russell Wilson's very good, and I think he continues to make us look non-crazy for continuing to say his numbers may not have looked good, they may not be winning as a team, they may be decreasing as a team, all this kind of stuff. But Russell Wilson's a cluster one quarterback, and I think when we see that his protection is very good, we see that they're a little bit more balanced offensively. He's throwing the ball more quickly. He truly is a great player.
Yeah, I don't. If I had to take a side, I'm really not sure which one I would go with. If it's -3, I think if it's 2.5, it could convince me on the Seahawks. If I have to have some sort of action on this game, I'm just going to take the over and root for good quarterback play.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
I think that's the ticket for this. This is one of the better games of the week, certainly maybe the best game of the week, other than the Monday night game, obviously. And Rodgers Wilson should be great.
You're great here. So Kevin King out, right? Brashad Breeland questionable. Devon House IR. Randall Cobb out, but I think that they're probably better at the receiver position without him. If you look, Blake Martinez is questionable. You look at the Seahawks side, one of their best players, KJ Wright, is doubtful defensively. So I do think you're going to see a lot of really good offensive play. Russell Wilson, almost 8% of his throws this year have been big time throws.
There you go. The over. Bank it. By the way, if you want to see all of our picks, head to ProFootballFocus.com. Get yourself a Green Line subscription. Get you all the picks. You can hate on them. You can love on them. You make some money. Do whatever you want. Knock yourself out. Go crazy. Dallas, Atlanta, Jerry Jones versus Arthur Blank in. I would just rather see Jones versus Blank in like a suit off. Who can wear the better suit? Cowboys. So this game happened last season, basically a year ago to the day, like week 10 or whatever. Cowboys were 3-point underdogs then. They're 3-point underdogs now. We took the Falcons then. We're taking the Falcons now. But do you feel better or worse about it now than you did last year?
Better. So so here's the thing. Last year, I'm not sure. There was a lot of stuff going on with the Falcons, and we were just never really sure about the Falcons. I think this year we are 100% sure about who the Falcons are at this point in time. And so I have no reservations about the fact that the Falcons might give up 40 points in this game. I do think, though, however, they can keep up with Dallas. The thing that's interesting here, and this has come in even after we did our SI hit, which is, I think, I have a little bit of remorse here. Tyron Smith, back spasms, might not play. And, of course, that was, aside from Ezekiel Elliott not playing in that game, the main reason why Atlanta it was a rocking chair cover last year, 27-7 against the Cowboys.
It was so driven by Tyron Smith coming out and then the replacement being below replacement level by a large margin. So let's say Tyron Smith does play. Okay. Let's say he does play.
Okay.
I think the reason to feel better about it now, as you said, has nothing to do with that defense. Their offense is so much better. Matt Ryan is playing worse, but their offense is better, and I think those are two things to take advantage of because Matt Ryan could actually play better, and it wouldn't be surprising. And their offense is just so much better. Their receivers are doing a heck of a lot better. Right?
They're not being inefficient, giving the ball to Freeman all the time.
Yeah, Tevin Coleman's been really good.
Last season, the Falcons, so we took the Falcons a lot and benefited from it, but one of the things that really helped us in that realm was them giving up 7 points, 20 points, 14 points, 17 points, 21 points, 23 points, 10 points, right? Yep. They were very inefficient offensively, and we got bailed out. That last game against Carolina, our last lock of the week of the regular season, 22-10. Well, that 22 comes from the 5 field goals and a touchdown, just the biggest sweat ever. They're probably never going to give up 10 again, but they are going to capitalize more, and hence it's going to be, and again, the league is about offense, and so that's why I feel good here.
I have a couple. Are you going to move on to a new game?
No.
Oh, go ahead then.
Yeah, and then I think with Dallas, people are buying Dallas high because of how well they played against an Eagles team that I think is not very good.
That always happens. I've got two great Falcons offensive stats for you. The first is percentage of targets that Ryan has had to receivers with 2 or more steps of separation. Okay. Basically wide open guys, right? Last season, 40%. That was 23rd. This season, 59%. It's 4th. I mean, it's huge.
It's huge.
And the separation of receivers, going from tight to just open 1 step is big. But going to wide open, that's massive. And that's the biggest jump that we've seen by any quarterback this season. And the second one I have for you is 134 dropbacks with a bunched wide receiver formation, passer rating of 137, which is first.
Yeah. I mean, Ridley has been huge, right? Having that third option that they didn't have last year with Gabriel. And then I think the sneakiest thing about them this year so far is that Austin Hooper has really developed as a pretty good receiving tight end. So they have a really good offense. And I just am really skeptical of Dallas. You know, the expression that Amari Cooper had on his face when Dak overthrew him by 10 yards after he beat Ronald Darby and what he said, it tells it all about the Dallas offense. They're just hanging by a thread, and I don't know. I just don't see them being able to keep up here.
I said this 5 times already this week. That game was more about the Eagles' defense than it was about the Cowboys' offense. I will sell the Cowboys' offense forever.
Do we want to talk about the Eagles' defense?
Go ahead.
All right. So this one is the stretchiest of all stretches this week because the Saints, as we talked about on our preview podcast on Monday, the Saints opened this week at 7-point favorites. And it's all the way out to 9, where we thought it would probably come back down a little bit. And yet, despite this, PFF Greenline, me and George holding our nose here, like the Saints, even laying that many points.
I hate it.
It's tough because the last time we took the Saints laying this many points was against Cleveland. I think the difference between Cleveland and New Orleans here, the Cleveland and Philadelphia here, is that Darby, Mills, Sidney Jones. Darby's out with an ACL. Mills and Jones are questionable. Lane Johnson missed Sunday night, and that was a big deal. The Saints are not good defensively, but what they can do is they can just score on every possession. So the Eagles are going to have to be perfect, I think, from a drive perspective. And the moment that they aren't, I just think the Saints at home are just going to step on their neck.
Yeah. The worry for me is that the Saints have a Thanksgiving game against the Falcons, division game to look forward to, and then they've got some injuries that might influence the way they think about things.
Yes.
So Teron Armstead has already been ruled out with a pectoral. Ramczyk is actually questionable with a knee. So to cover 9, I would think they'd have to be somewhere near full strength. So look, if this for me is one of those games where if I have to choose a side, I'm going to go with the side that the math is on, right? I'm never going to go 100%, but that's tough for me. It's counterintuitive to everything I would have thought.
Here's a question. So if you're the Eagles, every single borderline fourth down you're going for, right? I mean,
sure.
Every single, you're going for the touchdown more than field goal. You're going for 2-point conversions more than not. I think that actually plays into this number a little bit, right? Because if they are on the wrong side of variance, I think that leads to a blowout pretty quickly. So I wonder here, what do you think the odds are that the Saints win this game but don't cover this number?
Let's see here. I think that the Saints probably have a 80% chance of winning. I'd say like 35, 40%.
Yeah, because to me, I think it's interesting because the spread's so big, but I think it's one of those where if the Eagles play our game in this matchup, I think they're going to win, but if they're
the Eagles are.
Yeah. Like I think it's one of those games where like the Saints are either going to blow them out because the Eagles are going to put out all stops and they're going to either win or fail them. And if they fail them, the Saints are just probably going to do what they did to Cincinnati the other day, which is just to score on every possession and keep it arm's length away and sort of demoralize the other team. Whereas I think if the Eagles are in it, right, then for all the reasons you talked about, their injuries, looking ahead to next week against the Falcons, et cetera, I think that this ends up being a game the Eagles could take. I don't think that happens clearly, but that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that the Eagles are like just a hopeless cause here by any stretch. And I think I think our model is going to be on the opposite side of the market. I would guess there are a fair number of people that are ready to take the Eagles getting 9 points.
I think, yeah, that's interesting because obviously they've already bought out to the Saints to now, but maybe they're just setting it up to buy it back.
Let me look at why don't you move on to the next game? We're going to go quickly. Actually, let's go Rams, Chiefs.
Okay.
And then we'll roll into more quick hitters. Why don't you start while I look up the spread?
Rams Chiefs was -2.5 going into the game. However, with the game going back to LA, they've given a point adjustment to the Rams. At 2.5, we would have liked the Rams against the spread. Right now, we have it as a no pick, although we're shading more towards the Rams for a lot of the reasons George said earlier, which is just the Chiefs defense is unlike the Rams defense in that I think that they're poor because of talent and not necessarily poor because of poor performance. And I think the Rams are game to sort of completely expose that group. Cooper Kupp being out, I think, is a difficult one here, but the Chiefs have a lot of injuries. The Chiefs have, Mitch Morse out, probably Eric Berry probably out, Sammy Watkins questionable. So I don't know. What do you think?
I'm going to just tell you what I think in a quick second. Back to the Philly New Orleans thing. Vegas Insider has nearly 80% of the money on New Orleans, which tells me a lot of people came in at the 7.5 number. They've stuck with that. They've moved it because of it, and that has stymied, I would guess, some betting. Wouldn't be surprised to see people hop on Philly, though, at
agree.
9. I don't see how that doesn't happen. Okay, what I think about this game is basically what I said in that entry to the question. I do think that the Rams are the side here. 3.5 is tough for me. If it were 3, I would feel at least decent about it. And all the things that you said, I think, ring true. Basically, what it comes down to for me is which offense do I feel better about never getting stopped? And that's what it has to take. That's what I'm thinking about. And to me, there's going to be 1 or 2 series where Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh eat the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line to the point where even fat ketchup Pat can't.
So
I hate Pat Mahomes.
Can we get to this one? Because you're normally somebody who is very unique, and you have your own takes, and you go against the grain. But on the ketchup thing, you are with the crowd right now.
I don't understand how you can ever eat steak with ketchup.
Yeah, I mean,
have you ever done that?
Yeah, growing up, yes.
What?
Yes, I don't anymore because obviously you get shown different things.
Can you explain to me how that happens? What's the process by which you order a steak and then all of a sudden you put ketchup on it? I need to understand this.
Well, when you were young, I don't know what the egg or chicken is, right? But when you were a young individual growing up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and somebody puts a well-done steak in front of you and then ketchup.
Why is it well done?
I don't know where the chicken or the egg is. I'm just saying that's what happens when you're young. And then, of course, you grow up and you go to a restaurant with a friend and they say, I'd like it medium, please, or I'd like it rare, please. And they're like, oh, interesting. Or I'd like some steak sauce. Then you're like, oh, interesting. So it's not.
And then you
always
slap that person on the face, too, because if you're ordering a good steak and you order steak sauce, Christ help us. So this is parental negligence?
I mean, I know my father listens to this podcast sometimes, so I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but it just is what it is, right?
Or friend negligence.
Right, because
so Pat Mahomes never had a friend who was like, buddy, before we get axed from this restaurant, please put the ketchup bottle away.
And to be fair, I think everybody in a certain group was doing it. So I don't think it's, I don't know, man. But you are on the right side here, but you are with everybody else. Doug Farrar, for example, I'm every single person in football Twitter apparently says Pat Mahomes can no longer win the MVP because he eats his steak with ketchup.
It's not that he can't win the MVP because of that. It's that he will undoubtedly end up not winning through some fault of his play, and that is a direct correlation with the type of person that would still put ketchup on their steak.
See, I said in my tweet that
I don't even put ketchup on a burger.
See, that's bad. But
that's not bad. It's because there are better things to put on your burger than ketchup.
I used to do Dijon mustard, but then Barack Obama did it, and that was a sign of him being stuck up. So then I stopped doing it. But no, where am I? Pat Mahomes. I think if Pat Mahomes can win the MVP, overcoming all of the physiological things associated with eating ketchup on a steak, it's that much more impressive.
I have a question. So I don't doubt that probably 90% of the people that are out there yelling into the dark abyss about how terrible it is to put ketchup on steak probably think it's actually terrible and have never done it. But if you are someone that does, you are probably very, very hesitant to say, hey, I'm one of those people. Yeah, it's me. Ketchup, steak, Ruth Chris Steakhouse. I put ketchup. Ruth Chris is pretty good, but like any nice steakhouse you go to, I put ketchup on my steak. How many people are out there that actually do this that we don't know about? Do you think there are a lot? I think ketchup.
I think you're far more than epsilon above 50%.
Wow.
I mean, you didn't know what Taco John's was last week.
Yeah, but that's not my fault. There aren't any on the West Coast.
Okay, so let's bring this back. If you grew up eating ketchup and steak,
But that's not a thing. Taco
It is a
John's
thing.
exist, and it's not a thing. There's
Stopsky,
not-
do you eat ketchup on a steak? Did you grow up eating ketchup on a steak? You're East Coast, though. So it's the bias too.
All right. Well,
Do you think he chose out of his own free? Do you think it was a free market of ideas that let Pat Mahomes?
No, and I
eat
think
ketchup on
it's.
steak?
I think you should be pointing fingers. I don't know where you point the fingers at, but they need to be pointed. Okay.
Love you, Dad.
Sorry about that, by the way.
Blue, you're my boy!
Jesus. All right, we're going to go rapid fire now through these 60 seconds each. Minnesota at Chicago. The Bears are 2.5 to 3-point favorites. Our model does actually like the Vikings. Your thoughts?
For the first time all year,
You doing that whole dance again?
Skull Vikings. Yeah.
Combination of
The better
sweater and the
quarterback
dance.
getting points, Mitch Trubisky. I don't know. It's going to taste an awful lot like Crow if Mitchell gets 350 and 4 touchdowns.
Yep,
this
it
week.
will. Here's the thing. The results of Trubisky's dropbacks rank 8th in terms of EPA per play, 8th highest. The process by which he's gotten there, his PFF grade per dropback, are 29th. So it could be the very case that he drops 4 touchdowns and no picks and whatever, but that would be contrary to what we've seen, which is that grade is more stable than EPA.
Let me take a stab at it because I know the other guys in the other PFF podcasts have been good at this. I think Trubisky goes 13 of 29 for 87 yards and 3 picks.
Great. God, that's going to be an awful boring game if that happens. Defense.
Wins championships.
I like the Vikings here. Next game that we will discuss. Let's go to, I don't know, what do you want to talk
Indianapolis on purpose?
about? Sure. Quickly, go.
Colts are 2-point favorites. They were 3-point favorites. We like Tennessee. The numbers moved with us down to 2, 1.5. The Mariota special. We were on Mariota last 2 Monday nights ago, so we've had to root for him a couple weeks in a row.
The Iron Chef. This one's tough for me because I think the Colts offense is better than the Titans offense, and it's a very slim margin between these two teams. And I think some of the Titans' results have been fluky. That third down
For sure.
bonanza versus the Cowboys.
The whole
I
Jackson.
thought the Patriots game was one of those games. I thought it was one where the Patriots were going to try and sort of, if we can grit it out and like just eke out this win, and they couldn't because the Titans didn't,
they
show
played
up with
well
their
for
pants
once.
down.
Yeah.
So this one's tough for me, but that's what the math says. So we're obligated by law to tell you.
That's
All
right.
right, pick one more game that we, for some reason, want to talk about.
Oakland. I mean, just kidding. Let's talk about. I actually think this one's compelling. Let's go to Pittsburgh at Jacksonville.
Yeah, man, this was supposed to be the Sunday night game. Sadly, I will not be
Bitter.
in Florida this Sunday.
Bitter.
Damn it. The Jags are getting 5 points at home, which seems kind of like a lot. Our model is inconclusive on this one, so where would you go?
Interestingly, you know how we talked about defense and how unstable it is?
Yes.
You look at PFF Greenline, you look at the defensive rankings, and wow, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who after 4 weeks of the season, you would have left their defense for dead, right? Giving up a ton of Flacco plays, giving up obviously the Mahomes game, the Tampa Bay game, etc. Steelers are actually ranked higher in our rating system defensively than the Jacksonville Jaguars. So
It's amazing.
Obviously, you can throw that variable out, and Randy
That's gonna
Fitz.
so many of the 5 Jaguars fans that listen to this are going to get tilted.
So the Randy Fitchner's done a tremendous job with that offense. I think the Jags have been a little bit. They gave a really good effort last week in Indianapolis. It was not enough. I don't know, man. I think Pittsburgh puts the last nail in the Jaguars' coffin. I don't know if they cover here, but I do think that they win outright pretty easily.
It's hard for me to back Blake Bortles in any situation. As much as I like Blake Bortles,
It really makes me a little bit upset that one of our locks, our win total locks of the year, wasn't Jacksonville under 9 wins. I feel like that was a missed opportunity for us.
oh yeah, you think a gigantic missed opportunity. But who could have seen Leonard Fournette getting injured?
That division, honestly,
You can't predict those games, and it has just the amazing thing is that with Leonard Fournette went the ability for Blake Bortles to throw the football, the ability for the defense to make tons of plays. Leonard Fournette, it turns out, was actually every player on the Jaguars' lifeblood. He was the the heartbeat
He
of
was the
that
vessel
team through which energy and divine
He was the
inspiration.
sun for Superman.
It's just sad to see a guy that's that important go down.
Yeah, man.
And
Whereas TJ Yeldon is a little block of kryptonite for the whole offense.
imagine watching that team and be like, you know what's missing here? 3.4 yards a carry.
Per touch, really, was
That's
what
what we're missing. That's it. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Remember to check us out Monday morning, bright and early. We'll be with you to talk about Week 12. Head to ProFootballFocus.com, subscribe, and go to mybookie.ag. Yeah, make it happen. See you guys.